So I'm going to start talking about this great course, Sacred Texts of the World, with Professor Grant Hardy. And I strongly suspect, that he is a Mormon fellow, and he's doing an excellent job. You agree, right?
Yeah, he's a Mormon fellow, but
we think he
is. Maybe okay.
Yeah. Or maybe I've just persuaded you that he is, and it's not.
Nah, he's doing okay. He's pretty objective about these sorts of things. So,
yeah.
Not what you expect from a Mormon who's been to BYU and graduated from there, I guess. Okay.
Was he?
Yeah, I graduated. BA is what he got there. That's his first degree, right?
I don't remember.
I'll check.
Yeah, you check, because I don't remember that. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
You said he was a Mormon. I think you just figured it out from his demeanor.
Figured it out.
So let's.
But I don't know that it's true. He does not say he is.
Not here, but they usually give completer stuff, more complete complete biography in the books, right? Oh, sorry. Okay, I try.
Anyway.
Yeah, he's got his first word from BYU. Okay.
So I made James another omelet like yesterday's, because he said yesterday's was good.
Yeah, it worked well.
So why not go with the Swiss chard and zucchini
Swiss chard
again? He doesn't like either of those things terribly much.
Well, Swiss chard, actually, I think that's what my mom was telling me with spinach when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I actually like the taste of the cooked spinach.
Well, that's good. Your mom was trying to get you to eat healthy things.
Yeah, well, she said Popeye ate it, so that really got me.
And he's having some of the lentil dish, which I made because it's good, and broccoli, which I had this morning myself. And now I had the same celery with turmeric and stuff that he has.
Yeah, so here goes everything.
Hot lemon and honey.
Yeah.
Because lemons are on sale at Superstore for $3.98 a bag, I think, which is very good.
We don't have Superstore stock. We're just mentioning good deals.
Yes. So, and well, I love lemons. I love them. So I bought 2 bags because I was like, well, I am making cherry wine lately, so I will use some lemons for that. And then I got to the car and I'm like, oh, I really want another bag. And James said, well, go get one. And I was like, no, I'll see later. Maybe I'll get one.
Yeah.
Because I am the only one who drinks the lemons around here. I can try to hide it in some things like salad dressing for James, and that's all right, right?
Well, hiding it. Not from me, it's from my stomach, right? So.
All right.
I don't like lemons, but my stomach, it just chews it out.
Okay, so now I have to explain that I often misplace things. So I don't have all the lectures here for up to where I am now. I found the paper again, and then I started writing, and so there's very little, and then all of a sudden I got to the third disc here I was watching this morning, and so there's quite a bit there, but there's very little of the other. So if you are interested in, well, who cares? No, Judaism and let's see, there was Zoroastrianism. What else? Hinduism. Then, some other stuff. Sikh stuff. Okay, you might want to go back to those discs, because either I wasn't writing the stuff down, or I lost where I was writing, which is more likely I lost where I was writing the stuff down, and it'd be in a heap on one of the surfaces of my living room, which are becoming more and more useless to me. I'm not finding things. I'm just sticking things on top of things, and they don't have any kind of like, it would be in between some movie reviews and who knows what else. So I'll deal with it later. Anyway, so lecture 3, Buddhists, no permanent soul, divine voice that thunder repeats, is Dahada? I don't know. Short for Dhamyata Dada Daya. I don't even know why I wrote that down because I don't know how to say it. Be self-controlled, give to others, and be compassionate. Hindu more related to English than Jap is to Chinese.
Hindi. Yeah, there. And this is true. He's not making it up.
No. Rama, ideal man. Sita, ideal woman. Dharma is your moral behavior dependent on caste, sex, etc. One must do their duty, Dharma. Kings cannot break promises.
Nice in theory.
Sikhism was specific, but one after another, the gurus were killed when they wouldn't convert to Islam or adopt their sacred texts to suit Muslim rulers. The 10th guru added a militaristic element to their sacred texts when the 9th guru was killed for not converting to Islam. Torah usually refers to the first 5 books, so that was in the Sikh lecture. Torah usually refers to the first 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. The lecture refers to Moses as a prophet, and this, I think, is when I thought, he must be Mormon, because I think that would make sense to me anyway, because certainly I've never heard of other Christians referring to Moses as a prophet. Have you?
The Muslims refer to him as a prophet.
Yeah, but
All
he
the
doesn't
patriarchs.
strike me as a Muslim.
Well, the Quran says guys like that were Muslims. So, but
No, this guy, Grant Hardy.
no, I'm not a Muslim. So, I can remember going to one Mormon bookstore, and along, in the extra literature, they had the New Testament, Old Testament, and the Quran. So I don't know if
Interesting.
what Mormons think of Muhammad.
Anyway, lecture 13.
Sorry, I just want to finish. They might consider him as an intermediate. Some of them might consider him as an intermediate prophet in between Jesus and. Yeah, so Muslims think of Jesus as a prophet. But sorry about that.
No, I don't care. Whatever. Lecture 13. Now this is when I started writing things down a lot, because I was here this morning alone, and I work very well alone early in the morning. So, Lecture 13. The 3 baskets of Buddhism. 400 million Buddhists in the world today. Buddhist canon of scripture is over 100,000 pages. It's a sacred library. Tripitaka means 3 baskets. Tripitaka?
You can see the tree in there.
Tripitaka?
You'd say tree.
Is what they call their canon. 1 Vinayana, rules for monks, nuns. 2 sutras, discourses of the Buddha, and 3 Abhidharma, higher teachings. 5th century, Siddhartha Gautama, North Indian prince, became the Buddha. 4 noble truths. All life is suffering. 1. 2. Suffering comes from desire. 3. If you stop desire, you can stop suffering. 4. You can stop desire by following the Eightfold Path, which is right view, right intention, right action, right speech, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Which I spelled incorrectly. Buddhist worldview similar to Hindu, which makes sense, right? Given Buddha's origins.
Yep.
1 samsara, reincarnation. 2 karma, cosmic justice. 3 dharma, moral behavior. 4 moksha, enlightenment. Oh, and I wrote some Zoroastrian. Yeah. Zarathustra, Greek transliteration of Zarathustra?
Yeah.
I don't know what I was writing here.
Yeah.
Zoroastrian is ancient religion of Iran. Okay, so this guy, Zarathustra, was assumed to live in 6th century BCE, but They say perhaps lived at the time of Moses. Not sure about that.
They don't know when Moses lived. So they're just guessing.
Yeah.
They think Moses was around 1200 BC. But he really was around 1850 BC. But that's a different issue.
Don't know. Anyway, so I wrote that down there because I was just flipping through the book and was thinking, oh, I should have written some notes down on Guy. And anyway. So, I'm going back to Buddhism here. Moksha, nirvana, escape from reincarnation. Buddhism, there is no soul. We are made up of aggregates, a body, sensation, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. And each of these things change all the time. So, the self has no existence at all. So we're, since the self constantly changes. So, Buddha told to follow Dharma and Vinaya, no leader appointed at death, 480 BCE. And that's important because if Buddha wanted there to be a leader, wouldn't Buddha have appointed a leader? It is something that is crucial, I think, for people to think about. So, it should be enough to follow what Buddha told people to follow at Buddha's death, right? Anyway, Vinaya, 227 rules for monks, 311 rules for nuns.
More rules for the nuns, eh?
Yes. Canon memorized and spread through memorization. Monks specialized in memorizing different parts. So, Buddha hadn't, or however you want to look at it, hadn't written down a thing. This is all just a bunch of guys who got together and said, yep, Buddha said this. So that's
same thing happened with the Quran. Same thing happened with the New Testament.
So, monks specialized in memorizing different parts. In 1st century BCE, new Buddha's sutras began to circulate, new ones. Buddha now seen as God, rather than a man who has reached enlightenment. These texts written in Sanskrit, not Pali. Chinese canon published in Japan in 1920s. Now anyone can reach enlightenment, not just monks and nuns. Ordinary believers are not expected to be familiar with entire canon. Even monks and nuns can only master a small part of the whole. Continued revelation, new text added to canon. Buddhism has generally been peaceful. Well, when your religion is constantly evolving.
That's,
Yeah.
came from a tradition of a certain degree of, or a certain type of tolerance for ideas that with the Hindu tradition, its big weakness is the caste system, but it seemed to have something like tolerance for different viewpoints. One of the key things, is the founder seems to have been peaceful. Really key, the founder of Christianity, peaceful. There are other traditions that just better. Just do the research and you'll find out which ones aren't peaceful.
The scriptures are like a finger pointing to the moon. I like that. The scriptures point towards what is important and have no value on their own. They are eventually abandoned. Oldest Buddhist writings on birch bark preserved in clay jars in Afghanistan. British Library got these 80 manuscript fragments in 1994. Sending a copy of the Diamond Sutra. They'd burn the sutras so the smoke would rise into the outer world. Incense, right? And this is common with other religious practices that I've talked about. So I don't know how, like when I look at these things, when I see these things, I go, this crept into the religion from pagan beliefs or whatever, and this just became incorporated, right? Anyway, lecture 14, Vinaya and Jataka. All Buddhists strive to live by the 5 precepts. 1, no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, and no intoxicants. Buddhist monks and nuns adopt 5 additional restrictions in addition to celibacy. 1, no eating after noon. 2, no singing, dancing, or attending shows. 3, no perfumes, cosmetics, or decorative accessories. 4, no sleeping in luxurious beds. And 5, no accepting money. Eventually, these were elaborated and became called the Pratimoksha. Buddhism offers a middle way. You don't give up too much, so you don't fast for too long, for example. Before he was Buddha, he ran into this trouble, right? So you see really skinny Buddha pictures, and then all of a sudden, he's a little more comfortable. So,
looks like Santa Claus.
Eventually. But you don't eat for desire after noon. You are constantly aware of suffering. You don't use intoxicants which let you forget about suffering. That's the key. So they're not eating after noon, they're doing a lot of meditation, and they're sleeping not in a luxury. They're not comfortable. And they have to stay this way. So when you become a nun or a monk in the Buddhist religion, you are not comfortable while you're doing that. Because you have to be constantly reminded that suffering is the point of life, right? So, I will talk about this later, I hope, because I have a lot to say about this. Buddhism the canons and meditation are your only path through the suffering of reality. Monks are not allowed to joke around or dig in the ground, farm. They cannot receive food from an unrelated nun. More rules for nuns. Buddha was reluctant for women to leave family and join Sangha. Mahapajapati, his foster mother, persuaded him. Nuns must accept 8 rules which subordinate them to monks. 1. Nuns with decades of experience have to defer to monks ordained only a few days ago. 2.
That bird doesn't like that.
He does not like that.
That's a bird with good taste there.
Forget that.
Yeah.
Monks can reprove correct nuns, but nuns cannot reprove monks. There was never any doubt that women could progress spiritually. Buddha was concerned about the vulnerability and respectability of women at a time when they needed male accompaniment, protection, and guidance. So he was concerned about the social atmosphere for women at the time. And that's why he set up these rules, not because, or so this fellow is teaching us.
That's his interpretation.
So, not because he thought that women weren't capable of achieving enlightenment on their own or anything like that, but he was concerned about what people would say, for example, how they would see the women. So he was concerned for the women. So anyway, and he was also concerned that common people would be suspicious of a celibate community which involved both men and women. Lots of Judika stories. Rabbits seen in moon. So they don't see a man in the moon, they see rabbit. One story, like Aesop's story about the goose that laid the golden egg, don't cut open the goose to understand source of gold, or you'll end up losing your future golden eggs. Which, that's an interesting sort of, if you think about that, what that could mean. Because in Buddhism, you're not trying to think, you're trying to gain wisdom, but the wisdom that they're trying to gain is nothingness, right? Not logical understanding of things, but the exact opposite, really. So think about that. So anyway, Theravada, oldest surviving form of Buddhism, 125 million followers in Pali, East Asia, greater vehicle. Mahayana Buddhists, 185 million believers, emphasis on Bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas achieve enlightenment but choose to remain in the world system rather than enter nirvana. They vow to enter nirvana only after all other sentient beings have been enlightened. One can pray to these divinities. Vajrayana, Thunderbolt Buddhism, is the smallest of the 3 traditions. There's 20 million adherents. The assumption of self responsible for suffering is a mistake. Suffering is the result of the cycle of conditioned arising. something known as, maybe, dependent origination, 12 stages of cycle, ignorance, karmic constituents, consciousness, individuality, 6 senses, mind also sense. Oh, the mind is also a sense. Contact, feelings, desire, clinging, becoming, rebirth, old age, death, sorrow, lamentation, suffering, depression, and dismay. And it's cyclical. So the last one brings us back to ignorance. So the Therigatha is the earliest collection of women's literature. It's 73 poems written in the 5th century BCE. The Dhammapada is the most famous of Theravada. It is 423 verses. Lecture 16. Mahayana Sutras, perfection of wisdom, undertake the great act of self-sacrifice for good of others and exhibit perfect compassion. Bodhisattva's perfections, perfect generosity, morality, patience, exertion, meditation, wisdom. Aim for enlightenment without selfish reasons. Wisdom is not seeing things the way they really are, not by human distinctions. Everything is emptiness. There's no such thing as Buddha, for example. All only has temporary existence. Non-duality says nothing, like Vimalakirti. To explain it, there's no such thing as male or female in reality. The Buddha has 3 bodies. Lotus Sutra asserted that Siddhartha Gautama became a Buddha eons ago, but pretended to be disillusioned with a princely life and pretended to gain enlightenment and only seemed to die to enter nirvana for the benefit of others. 3 poisons: desire, anger, delusion, ignorance. Understand and explain Diamond Sutra. All conditioned dharmas are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, or shadows, like drops of dew or flashes of lightning. Thus should they be contemplated. Lecture 17. Pure Land Buddhism and Zen. Mahayana Buddhism introduced the idea of multiple Buddhas and burial mounds. Preserved sacred texts for future to bring good karma. Most popular was Lotus Sutra and then Pure Land Sutras. I'm going to forget what I was wanting to talk about earlier. I know I will. Alternative reaction to social breakdown. Okay, so I'm going to talk about something here. Because he says, okay, in this Pure Land Buddhism and Zen, and I don't want to forget this later on, the message of these texts is that in a degenerate age, it's impossible to gain enlightenment through one's own efforts. Instead, you hope to be reborn into the Pure Land. It's lovely, floral, air is filled with music, pleasant fragrance, and the birds are there magically created by Amida Buddha, because birds don't actually exist there. So basically, it's a heaven that they've created for Buddhists. So, which is hilarious. Because, okay, that was, what I said there was probably offensive to people who believe in Pure Land Buddhism. And I'm sorry for that.
Well,
but
you're responsible for your own beliefs. I mean,
yes.
People are welcome to make fun of our beliefs too. We're not going to go out
if
and
you
whack
think
them,
about it,
so.
The message, in a degenerate age, it's impossible to gain enlightenment. The whole point at the beginning, I'll go back here for you. Okay, so 3 baskets of Buddhism here, and the 4 noble truths. All life is suffering. Suffering comes from desire. If you stop desire, you can stop suffering. If you can stop desire by following the Eightfold Path. All life is suffering. That is that's why you're here. You're supposed to suffer. That's the point. That's how you find enlightenment. You suffer, you understand, you think about it, and you're like, oh, yeah, kid died, and I'm never going to find somebody who hasn't lost a loved one. And to get the mustard seed, that thing, which I didn't talk about, but it's in there. So that's the whole point of suffering. So if you're find yourself in a degenerate age, yay for you! You're going to suffer more. Thus, you will get a better understanding of how to become enlightened, right? You don't need to go to heaven. You don't need to create a heaven for yourself so that you can sit there and think about nothingness. You're not going to learn anything that way, right? If you're a Buddhist, You have to believe that you have to suffer. That's the point. Oh my gosh. Anyway. So anyway, Amida Buddha created this Pure Land for Buddhists, and there you should be able to reach perfect enlightenment. And you can, if you want to be let in, you call Namu Amida Butsu 10 times. And there you go. And then you shouldn't need to repeat it. You should just call Amida in pure faith, and then that should also get you there. So anyway, Zen is Japanese form of the Chinese Chan. Bodhidharma was first patriarch. Zen became the dominant form of Buddhism in China in 12th century. Now, also want to mention something. You may have noticed patriarchal sort of why? There shouldn't be any. In fact, he's talking about earlier how there was somebody came back as a woman, and another guy, a monk, is asking, well, why did you come back as a woman? Surely you'd want to be a man, because it's way more awesome to be a man. And so this woman explained it to him by switching bodies with him all of a sudden so that he could try to deal with it, right? But the thing is there's male-female does not exist. You're supposed to learn that. You're supposed to actually. So why does this patriarchy continue in Buddhism? It doesn't make any sense. It shouldn't be that way. If they were on the right path, we wouldn't see this. We would not see a continued patriarchy. So you know right away that whatever is happening where there's a continued line of patriarchy and one guy is appointing another guy, you know it's wrong. It's not Buddhist, that's for sure, because that shouldn't be happening. When you step back and look at things, it's pretty clear, right?
It should be pointed out it's not a new creed either. It's been around, according to accounts, over 2,000 years. Most people would say 2,500 years. It's a little less than that, but over 2,000. So I think that it's gotten it right.
You'd think so. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so I have made comments about, and I don't mean to offend people. I'm sorry if I am offending some people out there. I've made comments about Wicca being a new religion. And I would say Buddhism as is practiced today is a new religion. Because this is obviously not the same religion that it started out as.
Well, religions do change.
Yes.
Christianity changed a lot when Constantine got hold of it by its throat.
Definitely.
And then, who was it?
And I'm
Theodosius,
realizing this more than more when I'm seeing things like the prosperity principle and stuff like that. Wow.
Yeah.
Where's that coming from?
Yeah, it turned Christianity on its head. Those people who believe in, you call it the prosperity principle, is that what they call it?
Yeah, I think so.
They're not Christian at all. If there's anything like Christianity in hell, they're going to be
I'm not one to judge, but it just seems strange to me. It's certainly a new religion. What they are following is a new religion. It's not Christianity as